Hi, everyone. It's Michelle Howe, and I'm coming to you today with an interview with a very good, very nice, very wonderful friend of mine. She is a fellow empath, and it's part of a series of Empath Awakening interviews that I'm bringing to you. I hope you enjoy this and you learn. Renee is a dear friend of mine. So, without any further ado, just going to add her into this recording. Hello, Miss Renee.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, very good.
Good, good, good.
Um, I put these in place, these interviews, because I wanted to give people a taste of what the journey of an empath could look like for each of us. It's a little bit different, and how we define the word empath, like how we come to discover it, and how it changes along the way we look at it, perhaps, and what we do with it every day. So I know you have like quite a story,
Okay.
and I guess I would start with Renee. Um, what does the word empath mean to you maybe today? And what you didn't know that word, I would
I
imagine.
didn't I didn't know that word. No. No. And what does it mean to me today? Um, it has to do with being sensitive, but it's sensitive in a really positive way. I know you're always talking about the fact that, you don't like it when people define empath as a certain way, right, or see it as a negative, and I don't think it is. I think it's a superpower. I think it's just a matter of finding your footing with that superpower, and figuring out how this sensitivity works best for you in society, right, and in your everyday life.
Well, so finding your footing.
Hmm.
Before you knew anything about any of this, right?
Yes.
It's like we're human beings, just like the other person. Everybody is empathic in a
Hmm.
certain way,
Yeah.
but there's a certain sensitivity level that people they know it's there, and some people don't even know it's there. So, what did this superpower do for you that you didn't know was part in a
R-
good way and then in a bad way,
Right.
like both sides?
We might want to actually start the other way around, because I think for most people it probably starts in a bad way
Yeah.
until you learn how to have some control over it and what it really means and how to work with it. And that's when you begin to realize how wonderful it is. So, yeah, I spent most of my life not knowing. I'd never heard of empath. I knew nothing about energy. I knew nothing about sensitivity. A matter of fact, I probably would have considered myself not non-sensitive, but I didn't really realize that I was sensitive at all. Uh, and the problem with that is that you walk around sensitive and an empath, but you don't realize any of
Not
these
knowing.
concepts. And what you're doing is you're absorbing and you're thinking everything that you're picking up or feel is yours, and you can't understand, why am I getting angry? Why am I suddenly so sad? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? And it can be very, very confusing when you don't understand. Once you begin to understand, you find out that you're being led. Somehow the universe is just really smart. So the universe, God, spirit, however you want to think about that divine energy, that healing energy that we all tune into, and it's always directing us, and it's directing us to places where we need to heal. We need to do work. So the stuff that we struggle with is kind of a clue, right? We're like Sherlock Holmes, where it's going, hey, 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 it's time to take a look at this. And once you discover that, then it can be very healing, right? Because when you're feeling something, it's like, okay, why am I feeling this? Yes, I'm picking this up from somebody else, but it's resonating with me. It's affecting me somehow. Why is that? And how can I heal that so that it stops bothering me
Or change that dynamic from
or change
bothering
that
me.
dynamic? Right, right.
But so give me like a concrete example of when you were young. How did empathy show up for you? And what did you do with it? I mean, you know now what it is, but back then you had, no
No,
idea.
no idea. And I don't know. Actually, Michelle, I really some days I'm like, how am I still alive? I don't know. Um,
Renee.
yeah, really, you know what I mean? I mean, because you just absorb and you absorb and you absorb.
Well, hold
Um,
on, hold on, hold on. The absorb, the absorb, the absorb. For the normal person listening to this, what does that actually mean?
It means that you experience things. So I guess, not to sound scary with it. So it's a good thing you stopped me. It's not that you experience things and then you don't understand why you're experiencing them, whether it's feelings, whether it's a physical feeling. For me, much of the empath stuff manifested as actual physical feelings once I started working with the energy and working to heal. And I think throughout my life, there were things like stomach issues or, intestinal type things that I just assumed were things, you go to the doctor, you got nothing wrong with you. So I just assumed they were things that were part of who I was, never realizing that there might be something else
Oh, God.
related to it. Right, right.
So physical symptoms, stomach ache,
Hmm. Yeah,
headache,
mainly stomach for me. Headaches too. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay. Um, how did you engage with the environment? I mean, how did you engage with the environment around you? That was it, how did you
Somehow, and again, that intelligent universe, somehow we do tend to have these automatic reflexes, these automatic ways of dealing with things when we don't understand, right? So I think for me, I was very much able to hold things very tightly. I I was just actually talking to somebody today, somebody that I work with, about a funny story where when I was changing a position in work. I was moving to a different area, and I was leaving the people that I had, maybe 10, 15 people that had been my staff that I was saying goodbye to. And I remember them laughing at me and saying to me, everybody else that works here thinks you're a really scary person. They're really scared of you. And I was like,
really?
me? They were scared of me? But what I realized as I got on this path was it's because nobody was able to read me. I was very good at pulling my energy in and holding it as tight to myself as possible. I didn't know why, but until I got to know somebody better, I wouldn't let that energy reach out and expand. And I did actually find that out in a dowsing class once. We did an example with the dowsing rods where, everybody else's energy was, getting hit out here and they had to be right up against me to actually get that energy. So I think we're really good at being able to pull ourselves in and back and kind of invent these put up these walls.
That's what you did. You
Mhm.
put up the walls because, or correct me if I'm wrong, if you're feeling vulnerable and you're feeling too much and you kind of don't want to feel as much, you're going to put up, whether you call it bringing it in, closing it up, putting up a wall,
Mhm.
you're trying to block what's
Right.
outside of
Right.
you. So in the process of blocking what's outside of you, people don't even necessarily see you because there's a block
Right.
there.
They can't read you. They can't actually
Yeah,
pick up on who you are,
right.
which is how that happened with me at work. Yeah. And I didn't understand that either. I'm like, what am I doing? Me of all people? How were people not liking me? But again, you tend to when you can't read somebody, right? When you meet somebody and you can't sense them, you tend to be a little bit shy. You're like, I don't know about them. I'm a little scared
But
of them.
okay, so I don't know you that way. Like
No.
for
No.
me, our relationship is pretty open. When was there a time when you were young that you really were open and it really
Yeah, I think we all start out very open. And I think that, depending, like you said, each person's path is individual, right? So if you're a child who was, in an abusive family, you probably set those walls up much earlier, right? You find that place you can escape to. Um, Others of us, I think it's a very natural thing. When I read is it goes like in 7-year increments. So at 7 years old is really when you start to let go of that childhood stuff and start to expand into the physical world and into the I am here type world. And, I think that for me, that's exactly what it was. I think it was around 7 when I started kind of, uh,
Pulling back is what it is.
yeah, yeah,
So,
where I would say things and people would not, they're like, okay, I'm not saying that anymore. We're not going there anymore. We're not doing that anymore. Yeah,
so what you're saying is, your child, you're born, you're innocent, you're who you are, and yet the world can feel harsh and find judgment with who that
very,
is.
very early in. Yeah. But I don't, like you said, we don't start that way, right? As a child, you come in very trusting, and you don't have the things to worry about that adults have to worry about. So you're not weighed down by, who's paying the bills, where's my next meal coming from. Most children, and not all children, but most children don't have to deal with that. So you can spend more time inside yourself with your imagination, with the creative energy, and
You're
kind of
playing. You're
right,
playing.
right,
Children play,
right.
right?
Yeah,
That,
and we forget how to do that as we get older. We do. We forget how to play. Yeah.
so in the early days, and you, not unlike many others, were an open, explorative, excited, loving,
Stubborn.
always stubborn.
Always stubborn, always stubborn.
Well, stubborn and determined rather go
Mhm.
together in my book.
Right.
I see it.
Yes, yes.
There's a negative to stubborn, but when you put it as determined,
It's another superpower.
it's a
It's another
superpower.
superpower, yep.
You're not pushing me down, because a lot of people might not have that stubbornness or that determination, and others can squash them,
Yeah, yeah,
and then they'll believe what that is.
yeah.
So there is a strength to determination.
There is. You figure
Um,
out a way to do it anyway, right? As
yeah.
I've got my perfect example, I don't like onions. I hate onions. Never liked onions since I was a kid. McDonald's hamburgers always had onions on them, right? And in the old days, you couldn't order them special. And my parents would be like, "You can't pick those onions off." Well, you know what? Little old tiny me always figured out a way to scoot my finger underneath that bun and scrape those onions off without anybody noticing. Because I was stubborn, right? You figure out a way to get what you want and do what you think you need to do, even when people are telling you, no, you can't do that. So stubborn is good. Yeah. Although I guess
So,
suppose not for a parent, but
well, I'm fascinated with the whole the walls idea, because I think we all have to find a way to survive in the world, right?
yeah.
So it's not like you lived. When did you actually find out about empath and spirituality?
Oh, geez, Michelle.
How old were you? Okay, I don't want to put the age, but
I
in
was older.
your 30s.
I don't know. Do you remember when we first met?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So, and I remember going up to you the very first day I met you and laughing because your sign said something about finding out at 45. And I
40.
said, okay. Oh, geez. Well, okay. So then I had you beat by I was 50 before I really started finding out about any of this. So it was quite late in life. Now I'd had all the stuff all along, right? I just never realized any of it. The term empath. So my journey began when my husband unexpectedly passed away. And it was kind of that ensuing rebirth, right? That all right, whoever I was is now gone with him, and I have to figure out how to keep moving on. And it was a year of really strict grief and trying really hard to avoid thinking, avoid feeling all of that. And about a year later is when I started to come out of that cocoon, right? I almost compare it to a caterpillar being inside that cocoon. And it was about a year later when I slowed down, took a breath, and boom, all of this started. And my first instinct was, oh, great, I'm opening up to this. I can hear my husband. I can talk to my husband. I'm going to be a medium. I'm going to talk to dead people.
Hold on.
This is going to be great. Yep.
Okay, we're back. When all of this started,
Hmm.
so really, you're in you're 50 years old.
I was closing in
You
on 50.
right. You've gone through a tragic death.
Hmm.
You go through that year numb, grieving, a whole bunch of different things are happening.
Hmm.
What happens after that? Like, what is
Oh,
it that
you mean I
actually,
skipped I skipped a whole section of my story? Is that what you're saying?
well, I'm saying
I
that
was doing it time wise, but
right, right, right. But I'm saying that you all these things started happening.
Mhm.
Why did, what things started to happen? What things did you start to realize?
So,
Yeah.
I don't know that I started to realize until the things started happening. I was working at the time 7 days a week, and I just went I think I took maybe a week downtime, between planning the funeral and doing all of that stuff. And then I was right back at work and I was working 7 days a week. So it was just a
I-
constant go, 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 go.
Is it
Um,
fair? Is it fair to say that you did not want to go into the emotional part?
um, I would fair to say that it wasn't necessarily that I didn't want to go into the emotional part. I think if I had
It
gone
was too
into the
hard.
emotional part, it
It
would have
was too
killed me.
hard.
Yeah, yeah. I always compared it to being on my knees. Do you know how just thrown to my knees? And I feel like I spent a year that way. Just so if I wasn't going, I wouldn't have gone. It just wouldn't have happened. So yeah, so it just go 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 go. And like I said, almost a year into this, I started to feel a little better, and I dropped 1 day a week at the second job. 1 day. So I think I took Sundays off. And that was it. And I'm like, okay, I can start actually being in my house. I can start actually breathing a little bit. Things are starting to calm down a little. And that's when everything started. I was driving down the road one day and an ad for the Long Island Medium came on the radio. Now, I'd never been to a medium. I'd never really put thought into this. I mean, we watched a couple of shows here and there, like anybody else. I'd seen television shows, never really thought about it. And all of a sudden I went, wait, I'm a widow. Maybe I should go to a medium. I didn't end up going to the Long Island medium. I ended up remembering Lilydale. So Lilydale, New York, on the other side of Buffalo. And I had read something about Lilydale years before, a young adult series online. And I'd always told Ken, I'm like, let's go there, let's go there. So I decided I was going. And that was like within 3 days, I was at Lilydale and had my first mediumistic reading. And I left there going, well, if she can do that, why can't I do that? I want to talk to my husband myself. So it started me on this path of discovery. And again, very excited when things did start happening. When I did really start communicating with my husband, I was like, oh wow, this is great. I can talk to dead people. I've seen the television shows. I've read the books. I know
I
I
like
can
the
talk
way
to
you
dead
just
people.
put it.
Yeah, look. And what I found was actually a very spiritual journey, which is the last thing I really expected. It turned into a very spiritual journey. So it started for me actually with a pendulum. My very first thing was a pendulum. And then I went to automatic writing very quickly. And once I started doing automatic writing, I pendulum was down, everything else was down. I was just because I was getting direct messages from my husband and from other people. Um, and I think my guides, my team, the people that were coming across in the automatic writing were the first people to say something about being an empath to me. I don't actually remember hearing the term empath, but they kept saying to me, "You're going to be a medium. You're going to be an empath." I think it may have even been prophet, something along those lines. But that was the first time I actually heard the word empath. And I don't think I really still knew exactly what that was until I ran into you the first time I ran into you and went, because it coincided perfectly, with the walls coming down. I actually started absorbing energy and feeling the energy being absorbed. So
Hold on.
that's yep.
Tell me that you actually started absorb feeling. Okay, stop on that. Explain
hmm
that.
I was going to. You stopped me.
Okay, sorry. I'm like, she can't just throw that out there. She's got to explain that.
Wait, stop. We're gonna be like the beginning of this journey. No, the if you remember, it was actually at a psychic fair that we met. So it was at the church that I'm now a ministerial cleric for. And that day I wasn't doing readings or anything yet. I was helping one of the mediums set up a booth. And she turned around and looked at me. I'd never met this lady before. She turned around and she looked at me and she said, "When are you due?" And I went, "What?" What are you talking about? So all of a sudden I looked down and I was bloated. I looked like the blueberry girl from Willy Wonka. I was just bloated, very, very bloated. And I didn't know. I mean, it was just sudden. I was like, "Oh, okay." So I
But,
went outside.
but that's how you look. That was your physique, period, or was it all of a sudden?
No, it was really for me pretty sudden. It was and now knowing the things that I know, it makes perfect sense because I was most of what I feel and carry is in that, in the solar plexus, in the sacral, in that center area. And I think most of us women do, right? That's where the stuff tends to hit you when it hits you. So now that I was starting to heal and starting to open up to this energy, it makes perfect sense that that's the spot that it started really sucking in, right? Where it really started to affect me. But that was the very first day, and that coincided with the first day that I met you because I had gone outside. I didn't know what was going on. I had gone outside for a minute. I came back in, went down the stairs, turned a corner, and there you were. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Wait, I think I get this. This is what's happening to me. It has something to do with being an empath. I just don't know exactly what it is yet." So, yeah, it was a lot of physical pain for me, and it was sudden. It did come in pretty sudden.
So, hold on. I'm trying to put a timeline to this. Most of
Hmm.
your life, you grew up and you were young and you felt, but you had to survive in the world, so you closed down certain things in order to
Mm,
survive with what it's not. Do You didn't walk around saying I'm overwhelmed? Did
no,
you how did you engage with
no.
the world?
I engaged with the world. You know, it's funny because to me, had always engaged with the world very openly. I felt like I'd always engaged with the world very openly, but I was also very careful to not let the world see me emotionally. So there were definitely parts that I would hold and suck inside, right? I would hold them inside. And then, when I was alone, in my room by myself, then, the crying would happen or then the true emotions would happen. But I think from an empath perspective, and I think many, many of us do this,
Right, right.
I was more worried about other people's reaction to my emotions than I was with letting people see how I felt because I was always afraid, which is true, that my reactions were going to negatively impact people. Even right up and through Ken's death. Even at his calling hours and through the weeks right after, I was more concerned about how other people were going to react. And I don't know that it was selfless because I feel like there was a part of me that knew that if I fell apart, other people were going to try and comfort me, and if they tried to comfort me, I was going to really just dissolve, right? I was going to just truly, truly lose it. So I think that's part of it as an empath. You know that your emotions are so strong and that other people's emotions are affected by your emotions, so you really try and keep that as tempered as possible, and that's it becomes a dance. And I think even when you do understand how it works and how things work, you still do a dance with it, right? But you learn. Now you know what you do, and you learn, okay, I know when I'm around these people that I do act a certain way, and that's okay because I know that, when I go home, I'll let it all out. I'll let it go.
So what you're saying to me is that I'm just like I'm a little giddy about this because it's like discovering, opening up a present. Ooh, this is what
What's
Renee did all
next?
these years. So you're not alone. Basically, you knew that you were a highly emotional person, but those emotions out there in the world being shown, not only could they trigger other people or they could come, so you felt like you had to kind of hide this part of you
Right, right,
because I did something similar to that in the sense that I don't want to be perceived as weak. I don't want
right,
I
right,
don't want that energy coming at me either. Oh, I'm sorry, you're way too sensitive, you're this, you're that. Like, that's not the persona I wanted other people to see.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so we come up with like coping mechanisms.
Aga
Coping. We're
Again, I
coping.
think it's very challenging, and I not to sound chauvinistic at all, but I do think it's much harder for women because of exactly what you said, right? You got some aspects of society where we almost feel like we need to be taken care of, right? And then there's that side of us that's going, wait, that's not what women are supposed to be now. We're supposed to be these independent, able to do things by ourselves and not need help. And I think those two sides can really argue with each other too, right? I used to have dreams all the time about being rescued, but then I'd be out in the world going, well, I gotta be a tough
Well,
woman. I gotta be a
you're trying to survive in the world.
yeah.
In the meantime, if you're really a feeler and that stuff matters to you, how do you survive in corporate world being a feeler? Like, you have to
Oh,
switch over a little bit, keep it under wraps. But then
yeah.
again, parts of us could, I don't want to say
Benefit.
parts, we need a balance between the two, sure. But what's in the world is all just left, like you have to be looking and acting a certain way in a
Yeah.
professional
Yeah.
way.
I
So
think that, yeah, I didn't. Now I've been in the corporate world for 22 years now, but I did actually work in the service industry before that, right? So I did stuff like nursing homes and working with disabled people, where you're a little bit more able to step into that emotional side. But again, it always scared me. There's something would always happen there where I was like, I can't handle that. I gotta get out. This can't be the job for me, right? Somebody would die. Something would happen where, um, so in corporate America,
it was too hard for
it,
you
too
to
much being
handle
too
that much
emotion, right?
emotion.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Corporate world, yeah. In a way, it was really easy to go, this is what has to be done. I can go, this, do this. I have since learned that that's not necessarily the way to function. But again, there's a trick to it, right? I don't necessarily have to walk around emotional. I can act a certain way, just like I said I learned to do in everyday life, right? I know when I'm going into this situation, this is the way I have to be. I know this isn't me. So, I will actually just kind of breathe into it. I will still be sending my energy, sending out the heart energy, sending out the love energy, stepping into things from a positive angle. One of the problems with the corporate world is as emotional people, you set yourself up, right? You're going into a meeting that is going to be difficult. And so 10 minutes before the meeting starts, you're like, oh God, so and so is going to say this, then this is going to happen. This is going to be a horrible thing. And you go into the meeting, and sure enough, it is. Right. So as you learn, as you grow spiritually, and you learn that side of yourself, now you can take that tool and you could go, okay, I'm going to go into this from a positive mindset, right? I'm going to go into this going, this will all be fine. This will all be good. So I will go into that meeting and I will still be Miss Professional while I'm there. But meanwhile, I'm deep breathing and I'm sending love energy and I'm making sure that I'm raising the vibration of the room rather than being one of those people that's coming in already angry because I decided 10 minutes ago that this was going to be a terrible
Well,
experience.
so what you're saying is an empowered empath, an aware empath,
Is
you step into that zone knowing that this energy in this room is going to be insane, right? So
mhm,
instead of riding the wave of what's here, I'm going to set the tone for what's here, at least for me, so that
keeping
this,
my bubble. Yep. Yep.
yeah, this outside of me is not impacting me.
Right.
If anything, I am impacting it.
Yeah.
So it's changing, reversing, changing things around upside down. It's not
It's working with energy, which is what we
right,
do, right?
right.
It's making the energy work for you rather than against you. And it's a trick. I mean, I still struggle with it all the time, right? But the first time that I caught myself, literally caught myself sitting there doing exactly what I was talking about, right? 10 minutes going before a meeting, going, oh God, this is going to be terrible. I know she's going to say this, then I'm going to say that, then I'm going to get angry because this is going to happen. And, you know, I sensed the physical changes, right? I felt my blood pressure raising. I felt my heart racing. I felt myself start to get angry, and nothing had happened yet. I wasn't in a meeting.
You're tuning
I wasn't in it.
it's like it's the
Yep,
tuning fork. You're tuning into
exactly.
what it's going to be. And one of the biggest problems that empaths have, good or bad, we know how to work with energy, but until we know that that's what's happening,
You don't, right?
everyone around you is changing up the tune and
Yeah.
you're just going along with it. I'm like, and then
I
you
used
come
to sit there at
home.
meetings and just cry because I would get so frustrated. I had a manager who worked in another area, and he'd start a conversation and I would try and say something, and he wouldn't listen, and I would just sit there and cry, and then I would be mad at myself because I was crying. Like, I wasn't crying because I was sad, I was crying because I was frustrated. But yeah, it becomes so different when you actually realize how all these dynamics work and how you are in charge, right? You are in charge of how you respond and how you react, so you can't necessarily control everyone around you. But half the time we're going into situations prepared for something terrible, and we've contributed to that terrible because we're expecting it. We're bringing that energy of,
Right.
oh
Right.
no, into this situation, right? And
So
that happens in everything.
yeah, I want to bring a little bit of the insight that I know of. Like, it's not like, so most people, I shouldn't say, 20% of America are highly sensitive in some way. So maybe they're a little bit more emotional and they're tuning in. All right.
Hmm.
80% doesn't see a problem with anything. They're not owning anything around
Right,
them. Right.
right.
So why is that? I want to hear your answer, then I'll say my answer. Why is it that this 80% doesn't have any issue? And this 20%, what's your problem, right?
I
What's
First of
your
all,
problem?
I would love to know where you got your stats from, but I
Go
do
ahead.
understand what you're saying. And if there are stats out there, I would like to see again a comparison. And I promise you guys, I am not chauvinistic, but I would like to see the comparison levels between men and women in those situations. I feel like men, and I mean there are women out there who have more of that male energy, right? That left that the logical energy, are able to not hold on to things the way we do, right? And I think that if you are capable of approaching things from a healthy perspective, and you don't allow yourself to absorb and pick up on other people's energy and pick up on other things, and you can walk into a negative situation and walk back out and be fine, then I think that you're fine, right? You're good. It's the best comparison I can make is my father. I have a very conservative father who is very good at not absorbing stuff. Now, he worked in social services. He worked in jobs where you normally would take that stuff home with you, right? But he had some way of being able to compartmentalize that and did not absorb and did not take it. Now, I think all of us do to some extent. I think you can tell people that you don't, and there always is some aspect that you hold on to or you don't let go of. But some people are better at not being able to hold on, at being able to let things go, kind of through them, like trees, in and out.
Right. Well, what I would say to that is that the empaths that I've met and the research that I've done, there's not a ton of that out there. But if the aura of someone who is more empathic is more fluid, it flows, it's lighter, things come in and out more. It's almost like we need to fortify. Why are we feeling so much of the emotion? Because the emotion, the way that we're made up, is a little bit different than others. You could say it's more right brained or left brained, but I can assure you I'm a very left brain person. I grew up very left brain. Okay. And
Yes and no. And I think you can do both, right? I think you can
right.
be a very logical right-brained person. I think you can be an emotional empath and come at things from a logical perspective because we have both sides,
Well,
right?
both sides are valid. Both
Yeah.
sides are valid. Some people are more
It's
used
just
to
a
use
yeah,
one
here.
more than the other, but at the end of the day, why are some people more emotional, more impacted by things that they see? And I think it's just the wiring, the spiritual connection is stronger in someone, in an old soul, in someone who has that ability. It's actually a gift. But unless you know how to use it, unless you
Right.
recognize it, it's going to create some problems in your life, right? Along the way. So I think the aura of someone who's empathic is more fluid. And hopefully the science at some point
Will show that. I
will
I
show
don't
that.
know. I think that now because I know mine wasn't, and it
Well,
is now. It is now.
what you did, which I have a client who did the same exact thing, grew up, he had to survive. An emotional male, survived through trauma. He put up wall, wall, wall. Like
Mhm.
there was no going in there. But what did he struggle with? Depression. So, like he could do his
Right,
job,
right.
he could do what he had to do, but because nothing could come in, because he had the walls and he didn't have the wherewithal to know that energetically your energy needs to flow.
You
You're
need to go
here
in and
being
out,
nurtured
yeah.
like
Well,
it,
just like our cells, right? If you look at our own body cells, right? Stuff can goes in through osmosis, comes out. It's a constant process, and that's the way life works. I think that many of us tend to let things in and not let things out. So for my walls, mine weren't the walls where you would look at me and go, she's closed off. My walls were, give me what you've got, but I'm not giving
sharing.
anything back out. So stuff could come in, stuff very rarely went back out until I was alone. And again, when I was alone, everything came out, which is probably how I survived, right? That alone time when I
So
did let everything come out.
what would have happened if you were to, if you let something out? Like if you were to share of yourself with another person? Or is that not, am I not understanding it right?
No, you are. I don't think that I don't think it's an easy concept, right? I look at my child and go, "Huh, what did I do? I don't know." Because I don't think it was a matter of me not sharing, not telling people who I was, not trying to. Maybe some of it was that stubbornness stuff too, right? This is mine. This is mine. You're not getting it.
Got it.
I'm not showing you everything. I will tell you who I am. I will give you some tastes. I will give you a little bit. I'm not
It's
giving you
almost,
everything.
it's almost fear of being
Too,
exposed or seen.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a very fine line for me. It was really funny. Like a perfect example. I was always probably about number 9 or 10 in my class, right? I was always really close to the top, but I never wanted to be at the top. I never wanted to be all the way out there. And I think that's probably the perfect analogy for how I was emotionally. I would give you everything to a certain point, but then I was done. Then you weren't getting anything more from me. I will let you see me and I will let you see me to a certain extent. I will shine to a certain extent,
Mm,
but I'm not going all the way to the top. I'm not giving everything. I'm not getting all the way out there.
yeah. The answer to that would be why? Why? What are you, logically, what are you afraid of? What's,
Yeah.
what's up
Yeah.
there? What would happen if you
What would
showed
happen?
even more? What would happen? So, depending on, I think, a lot of our experiences and our
Instincts.
beliefs, and how much do we reveal to people? How much do
And
we
how
let
much do you
people
get burned when
into,
you do reveal stuff? Right,
right? How
right,
much do we
right.
let people really see us?
Yeah.
How much is safe to be revealed, to be seen? um yeah, those are really
And
big
it is, and the
questions.
safety thing is a big uh, perspective of that too, right? How safe is it? How safe? I've reached a point in my life now where it's like, okay, there isn't anything that I can show you that I feel like it would be dangerous. Right? I feel like now I've looked at everything that's in there and gone, okay, there's really, I'll tell you anything. You ask me, I'll tell you anything. But yeah, there was a point where, and again, it's that dance, it's that back and forth. I think the fear really came in from, if I tell you this, you're going to react that way, and it's one thing that you react that way, but then that's going to be coming back at me, and now I have to take it back in a different form, and I
It's
don't think I
almost
want to
like
do that.
it's dealing with too much. I'd
Yeah.
rather not be judged. I'd rather not have that out there. I'd rather not have that
I think
be exposed.
grief is the perfect example for it, to be honest with you, because grief is so personal, so intense, so painful, right? That if I show you everything that I have inside and then you react and throw it back at me, that might just be enough to make
To
me
throw me
implode.
over the edge.
That exactly,
It's gonna throw
exactly.
me over the
And
edge.
I think
Sure.
that's happens with a lot of emotions and with sensitive people, right? That I can give this to you, but if you toss it back at me again, it's just going to be that dynamic is just going to be too much for me. I'm going to
Too
implode,
much emotion. Too much
right?
emotion. Yeah. I want.
Because
Go ahead.
I was talking about cells earlier, right? And I've just been studying cells recently, right? And the osmosis in cells, something will move from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. So, if you've got a cell that has less oxygen in it and there's a lot of oxygen over here, the oxygen is going to go into that cell because it's got low concentration. If you've already got a high concentration, it's not going to be going into that. That's not how it works, right? Because it would just blow up. It would just explode. And I think it's that same type of concept. If you already have a lot of emotions, there's only so much more that you can take in before it's just going to be too much for you.
So,
You have to be, as you said, the porous. You have to have in out, it has to be a constant dance, a
yeah.
constant exchange.
So what I would say is, back in those days, you didn't know that much about any of these things.
No.
So getting that extra, I've seen women that are emotionally connect, emotionally driven, loving women that actually they put up this really tough side to them because they
Yeah.
don't want anybody to see that they have feelings, right? So it's better to be stand back, right?
Right.
That kind of a sergeant. But I wonder if they allow those feelings to really become a part of them and we learned how to release the
Yes.
emotion so that you're not so jam packed with stuff
Hmm.
with things, so that it's almost, it reminds me of when my dad died. We were all we were all there afterwards and everyone was crying, right? So, and sure, I was definitely upset, but as soon as my sister hugged me, I became hysterical. I mean, I wasn't a little hysterical. I'm like, but it felt good to release it. But I don't typically ever get myself to a point where that's going to be me, right? So it
Yes.
felt good. I didn't plan it, but it was like this combustion. I'm like, oh my God,
Right.
we
Right.
just, I just lost it, right?
Hmm.
So that's similar. And nobody in, so that's an extreme situation. It's a death, of course,
Hmm.
right? But releasing the emotional pain is so important. People validating, acknowledging, releasing on
Right.
purpose what is in them,
Yeah.
because it can harden you, it can make you very sharp, it can make you very edgy, it could make you,
It can make you ill. I mean, that's
right.
what really leads to diseases,
Yeah.
to physical problems is holding on to stuff and not letting it flow. So again, we are tools, right? We are machines. Stuff has to flow. If you get something clogged up in there, it's not going to work right? It's just like a coffee maker or a vacuum cleaner, right? We get a big old bunch of hair stuck in there, it's not picking up, it's not moving, things aren't moving through freely, and that's where you have problems. Yeah.
So I just want to go back to one point that you made, and then we have to wrap this up. We've been talking for a good chunk of time. How long has it
Wow.
been? Oh,
I
40.
don't know. I
All
don't
right.
know. You tell
So
me.
49 minutes. I want to go back to the when I finally opened up and I went to this and I'm watching myself and I'm bigger. I've
Hmm.
started my healing journey and I'm absorbing. So
Hmm.
before then, technically, you weren't absorbing that, like something shifted where you were now in a different mode and you're absorbing more.
Mm. Again, the one thing that I can say is it back to the intelligent universe, right? You are getting clued in to where you need to do work. So I don't know that I was necessarily absorbing more, but I think that I was letting stuff clear, letting things move a little bit more freely. And I feel like you get to this point where if something has been clogged, you're clearing it out slowly. And in the interim, I almost compare it to a scar, right? It's not smooth. Things that come in are still sticking there. They're still getting stuck, even though you're in a healing process. So I feel like the universe was kind of pointing things out to me and going, hey, this is where you need to take a look because that part of my body, I mean, that's still the part that I have to concentrate on the most. But again, my worry will stay there, my guilt will stay there. So, knowing that things were flowing now, knowing that I was actually feeling things move as opposed to just being numb, right? Just having
Mhm.
health problems, I think was
Hiding.
part of it.
Well, so going back to the many people don't feel their emotions. They just, that's not ever been a topic brought to them. They live with things, they store things here, they store things there. They don't want to go back there because they don't like the feelings, right? They
Right.
don't like it. But I can
Or,
assure you it's still
yeah,
there.
sometimes it's the Stockholm Syndrome thing too. Sometimes it's easier to stay in your pain than it is to try and move out of it because you know what's here, right? You've been here your whole life. You know this pain, you know how to deal with it. You've figured out methods of countering it, right? Whereas you don't know what's going to happen out there. So now I'm going to start healing. Well, what's going to, and I'm going to tell you it is, it is a process. And so it's not easy, right? It's not like one day you go, I'm going to heal. And the next day you wake up and everything is gone and clear. So again, if you've gone your whole life like this is what you know. You're much more comfortable there. You're much more comfortable there. You don't want to look at the healing because that might hurt. That might hurt. Stockholm syndrome, right? Those
But,
people who get
but,
kidnapped and
so,
fall in love
so,
with their kidnappers because
yeah. So let's talk about that might hurt, but as you move through it, what I've seen and what I've experienced is that you
you do.
become just a different person. There's more
You,
brightness, there's more, life is just a joyful, more
yeah.
joyful, and then more joyful and more light. What does that mean? Like when you're depressed, when you're anxious, your body is tense and it's heavy, it's hard to move. Yeah.
I've always told people it feels like you walk around in skinny jeans all the time. You're always sucking stuff in. It's almost like you feel like your body will disintegrate if you actually just relax and let things flow.
Good.
And you're right. It's once you start, that was one of the most beautiful things of this journey. Even though there were times when I was just really confused as I was working through this process, I was confused, I was in pain, things were difficult. I could sense myself becoming a better person. And when you start
I
feeling
should
that
say
and
a
you
different
realize,
person. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Happier, a
Mm,
happier person,
I,
a
I felt
lighter
I felt
person.
better. The first time I noticed it, I was out driving and I was in traffic and somebody pulled out in front of me and cut me off. And I didn't react. I just didn't react. And I went, wait a second. Not 6 weeks ago, I would have been, I'm not the type of person who would have been just blowing the horn and swearing, but my heart rate would have gone up. I would have been, like this, worked up. And I just went, wait a second, I didn't react to that. That's very, very positive. I see that. I see that happening. So yeah, when you start feeling it, you're like it changes you. And it's a different person can be a negative side too, right? You can become more shut down. You can become, so I do think that when it's something that's positive for you, when you
A
become a
positive
better,
transformation.
right,
It moves
right.
you in more of a positive direction.
Where you
And
go, wait a second, I like that me. I like
Right, right,
I
right.
like that me. I like that me much better. And that's the important part about this journey, right? Because the healing begins when you learn to love yourself. And if you're spending a lot of time not liking who you are,
Not
whether it's
consciously, you're
right.
avoiding,
Whether it's
you're
because
avoiding
other people's
yes,
opinions have come in, whether it's, well, some of it may be conscious. It may be, I was taught that this is wrong. I'm doing this, so I must be a bad person. It's, but, so whether it's from outside or from inside, it's learning that you are a good person. It's learning that you do
remembering.
have a light,
Yeah,
and that things that you may see as, I shouldn't have done that 10 years ago and I did that and that was a terrible thing. Well, you know what? You were someone else then. You made a decision that you had to make in that situation, and that decision got you to who you are and where you are now. So again, it's about forgiving yourself. It's about letting yourself um, embrace who you are. Embrace who you are and what you are, and step into it from a positive angle. And I think that makes the biggest difference, right? It's not a self-obsessed, it's a self-love. It's a, yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. There are times I'm going to be human, and we all will be, right? We're never going to be um, perfect angels, right? We wouldn't have to be here anymore if we had all the answers and we always knew everything and we could always be the best. But
so
building yourself.
your advice to empaths
Hmm.
is, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. What advice would you give them?
I, first of all, the self-love. The biggest drawback that most of us have to healing is believing that we're not worthy, feeling like somehow we're bad people, or we're sinners, or we've done bad things, which we all have, right? We've all done things. All of us have stuff that we've done that we're like, I probably shouldn't have done that. But forgiving yourself, moving ahead, realizing how special you are, it gets you really far to letting some of those walls down and letting some of that healing happen. And then just embracing the fact that you're sensitive, embracing the fact that you have a superpower, you have a gift, you can feel energy in a different way from a lot of people. And your gift isn't my gift, and my gift isn't Michelle's gift. It's our own version of how we feel, how we react, and how we go out in the world. But I would say just embrace it, have fun with it. It's about enjoying life. And we're not here to be punished. We're here to learn, to grow spiritually. So the more that you embrace yourself, the easier the journey becomes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Thank you, Renee. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me. Even if you had to translate me a few times.
Oh no,
You're
I
saying
was just
what?
trying,
You're saying what?
I know where you're going to, and I'm trying to keep you so that the audience
On my path.
will.
That's what we do for each other.
Yes.
That's what we do for each other.
So let me just thank everyone for watching. Thank you, Renee. If you guys have any questions about Empath Evolution or this journey, don't hesitate to reach out. Look up the website, come into Empath Evolution's community on Facebook. Um, we're here. We're here. We're doing lots of great things, and welcome. Welcome to the tribe. Have a great day, everyone.